Talk to me about a hand crank vibrator. I just saw that in these notes and I need to know more.
That's one of my favorite fun facts. So this is like late 1800s.
That's what men need to be used for. Hand cranking my vibrator.
Yeah, maybe if there's just a man next to me cranking it.
That's your job.
Or like running on like a hamster wheel for me.
Welcome to Pelvic POV with your hosts and doctors of physical therapy, Amanda Neary and Hannah Meyer. Hey, Pelvic Freaks. Welcome back to another episode of Pelvic POV.
We're your freaks for us and we're freaks for your pelvis, baby.
And welcome, Hannah 2.0 to Pelvic POV.
Hey guys, how's it going?
We're so excited to have you.
We have another special guest, guys.
And we are extremely excited for this special guest because this episode is a little out of my and Hannah's wheelhouse. And we're so stoked to talk about it. Today we're talking about fashion. So I would like to formally introduce Hannah Linsky, who is a fashion historian and educator and is a co-owner of Pep Club Vintage, which is a vintage store here in Chicago.
You guys have heard us talk about Pep Club Vintage before.
We have mentioned Hannah a couple times on the podcast already.
And now you get to meet her. You're welcome.
And today we're bringing Hannah on to talk about the history of undergarments and their ties to feminism, sex toys, and sex work. So Hannah, do you want to just give us a little background?
Oh, wait. We also didn't mention that she's my pole partner, too.
Oh, yeah. And she's Hannah's pole partner. And they just got accepted into their first doubles showcase.
Not a big deal.
Not a big deal or anything.
Freaking awesome. I'm actually so bummed I'm going to be in Spain for it.
Yeah.
No, can you do it again for real?
We will.
I need to see
We were going to do it the next weekend, but I will be out of town. But we're doing our first doubles performance, and it's like a Hannah Montana kind of take. It's a take on Hannah Montana and Miley Cyrus because I have dark hair, Hannah's blonde hair. that's what started it all.
Will we have performed by the time this episode comes out?
No, I think our episode's going to be like the weekend after this episode comes out.
Oh, okay.
So if you guys are listening, you're interested and you live in Chicago, we have a show coming up at Newport Theater.
June 1st?
June 1st.
Yeah, heck yeah. Mm-hmm. You guys should go for me and take videos for me because I want to see it. So I have more to yap about just for banter, but I want you to introduce yourself first and just give us a little background on how you got into fashion and where your passion lies within that.
Amazing. I've always been a history nerd since forever, but I'm not into I wasn't into school kind of history stuff. I didn't want to memorize dates or old white guy names, but I always loved historical fiction. I loved going to museums, and I didn't really know what to do with that until kind of in college and then post-college working in secondhand retail and sort of finding that overlap between fashion and expressing myself creatively through fashion, and then sort of what that means historically, how we got to where we are now and what we wear now and all of those kinds of questions. So I love thinking about what everyday people wore and how everyday people have existed and what it would have been like to live in different time periods as myself or as any kind of person. And then I love thinking about how we got to where we are now in terms of our beliefs, how we dress, how we express ourselves, how we move about the world. I like kind of pulling the threads of, different kinds of expression and thinking about how we got here.
That is so cool. I'm super excited to learn more because fashion history and how it relates to politics, it's really cool. And when I was in music school, it was almost like a similar thing where I was obsessed with music, and then through music history, it was all about how it interacted with politics. And to me, they kind of remind me of each other in that music is political, fashion is political, all of these things are super political. So it's really interesting. I'm very excited to learn more about that. And just a sidebar, Hannah did a style kit for me back in December. It was my Christmas gift to myself. And she picked out 6 vintage pieces for me based on what I was hoping to supplement my closet with. And I found some of my favorite pieces that I own, and I feel so stylish now. And I have this newfound love for fashion and shopping, and that was thanks to you. And it was so cool.
Whenever I see one of the pieces on your Instagram and you've styled it a cool way, it's such a fun feeling.
Oh, I love that.
You need to do more of these.
I need more people who want me to do more of them.
Guys, if you are interested in a personalized cool style kit of staples that you could literally mix and match with anything, you've got to reach out to Hannah, which will link her information in the bio. But I think, didn't you just make a Pinterest board or something? Or
Yeah, you asked me for like some inspiration. And what I thought was really cool about your kit compared to like some that you would find on TikTok or whatnot is like Hannah brought me into the store and had me try on more pieces than 6. And then she let me pick out my favorites, which I feel like is just going above and beyond what other people will do for that price point and what you're doing. And I thought it was just like the most personalized, amazing experience. So highly recommend Hannah.
Thank you. Yeah, my goal with those is always I don't just want to give you things that without helping you figure out how to incorporate them into what you already own and make sure you feel comfortable and confident in them, even if, just because it's exactly what you found on your Pinterest board doesn't mean it's going to incorporate well into what you already have. I don't want to give you things that you're just going to like never touch because you don't know how to style them. So
Totally.
such a good point.
Before we get into this episode, can I get just do you have any hot takes on the Met Gala? Do you hate it? Do you think it's problematic? Do you love the style? What's going on?
I have mixed feelings about the Met Gala because on one hand, I do think it's kind of a spectacle and a distraction from a lot of other terrible things going on in the world and political things we should be focusing on. I've seen people call it Hunger Gamesy, and I see that point for sure. I think this year in particular felt special because of the topic of Black dandyism, because of the tailoring theme, and seeing people pay homage to a lot of people that hadn't really been in the spotlight, hadn't kind of gotten their flowers in the fashion history world and in conversations about fashion in general. I really enjoyed kind of all of the nods to people like Dapper Dan. There was, just a lot of cool references in the Met Gala looks, and also some duds, but as there always are.
Yeah.
But this theme felt really special for that reason. I think the history and what they were talking about made it something that I was more interested in, where in past years it's been kind of a snooze for me. But
This is kind of exactly the conversation we had before you got here.
Exactly the conversation that Amanda and I had.
And I was like, I'm not like, I get both sides of it, right? I think it's like, this year in particular, actually, I really liked the outfits for the first time in a while.
Yeah.
Like, oh my God, Doechii, Joey King. Like, I was obsessed with some of their looks, and I just like enjoyed looking at it. But I do understand that in light of things, it feels problematic. But yeah, the theme was really cool. I love the tailored suits. Like, it was such a vibe.
yeah, I felt like there was a lot to play with. Sometimes the themes are kind of like super nebulous and they don't really mean anything, and then you get people kind of all over the map, but this one felt especially kind of pointed and niche, and I think that's when you get the best references, is when there are kind of more creative parameters.
What was your favorite look or favorite few?
That's so hard. I love Doechii's look. I think she looked fabulous. I love Tiana Taylor's. I liked all the nods to Andre Leon Talley in general. His work and his influence on the fashion world have kind of, in certain fashion spaces, always been talked about, but seeing them on the stage is incredible. He was a fashion journalist and big in the fashion media space, if you're not familiar with him. And then I liked all the references to Josephine Baker too, lots of kind of like flapper era looks. And I liked Bad Bunny's look too.
I feel like
Bad Bunny.
Bad Bunny. We were just talking about how we want to run into Bad Bunny in Puerto Rico tomorrow.
Yeah.
I want that for you guys. I hope that happens.
So fun.
Hannah said the word nebulous, and I loved that.
Is that the word of the episode? I think so. That's Hannah's word of the episode.
How many times can we use nebulous?
What is the definition even of nebulous? I actually don't know.
Should we look at
I'm
the
hoping
actual one?
I'm hoping I used it right. Now you've got me overthinking that.
I bet you did.
So nebulous in this context was probably unclear, vague, or ill-defined.
Okay, yeah, that's what I was going for.
It's also in the form of a cloud or haze.
That makes sense. The first option does make more sense.
So, well, Hannah, what are we actually? Hannah Meyer. What are we actually?
Oh, this is a
about
constant
today?
problem with us.
It really is.
Do you want to?
Yeah, let me jump in.
Yeah.
All right. Hannah, we have a ton to get into, and like the way you explained everything just shows your knowledge. So I'm so excited. So we have a couple questions that we want to dive into. So first topic, let's go ahead and dive in. How has fashion historically reflected or resisted power structures?
This is my favorite question. I could talk about this alone forever. Those in power have been controlling what we wear since written record we have, at least since ancient Greece. We're assuming probably before that as well, for thousands of years. And the reason for that is, I think, We can see that dress has the power to shift our perceptions of people and thus social hierarchy, social structure, and things like that. Systems of oppression are really fragile, and so they need to be reinforced through different cultural touch points, and fashion is one of those things because everyone participates in it. I think too, some of the earliest examples of sumptuary laws are like clothing and adornment related laws from history, go all the way back to ancient Greece, like 7th century BCE. Oftentimes what they are used for initially is two things: to identify class markers, so to separate wealthy from poor people. And then an interesting one is gender related, but specifically they're often used to detect between noble women and sex workers, which will come up later on. But that is where you see initial sumptuary laws, is one of those two things largely, which is something we'll dive into more later.
Wait, dive in. Okay, sumptuary laws. What exactly is that again?
Clothing and adornment related laws. So any law in any kind of government structure that like prohibits or allows you to wear certain garments. So
Gotcha.
it might be that like only nobility can wear purple, or like there was a time period in which like only noble women could wear fur, and if you were like a sex worker or, you know, a lower working class woman, you weren't allowed to wear fur. So those kind of laws help kind of create hierarchy, like visual hierarchy amongst people at a time when, you know, you are just born into wealth, or if you are born into like a royal standing, there's a lot of ways in which people could question that. And so they need kind of ways so that you don't question it. Like, oh, that person looks magnificent. That person looks really impressive. They must be wealthy. They must be royalty. And that kind of ingrains that social hierarchy.
My brain goes straight to like Handmaid's Tale.
Yeah.
When you picture people talk about this show and they're like, this is so unrealistic. This show is almost satire, just like based on how the world is. And that's just like an extreme example of what that would look like in a dystopian world, right?
I'm thinking too, not to be a downer, but I do think that like, unfortunately, we're going back to a world in which sumptuary laws might become more prevalent again as our current government wants to kind of further ingrain and separate people via class, by gender, all of those things. But you still see it in schools and stuff. There are dress codes that, you know, prohibit who can kind of tell who can participate and who can't by what they have on or how their hair looks or things like that. I think
It's true.
we've gotten away from that a little bit, but it definitely still exists. You know?
Say that's immediately where my mind went. It was dress codes in school.
Yeah. And there are still like professional norms and stuff in workplaces as well, in certain workplaces as well, that kind of mimic some of that.
Oh my gosh, that reminds me. I know someone, I'm not going to call out the name of the company, but I know someone who works for a company where women have to wear skirts and heels to work still. And it's not legal to do that in the US. But this company just like brainwashes all their employees into thinking that that's fine. And I'm like, that's wild. They're also in a state that's not Illinois that like is a little more conservative. And
God.
I'm just like, that is a wild concept. And if you know the company I'm talking about, yikes.
That's crazy.
Wild.
There were, I think it was Missouri up until recently, women like state workers, like congresswomen and stuff, had to wear a skirt in sessions, like when Congress was in session for the state.
Wild.
Yeah.
Yowza. Okay. So I know you mentioned like fur, non-fur, and then you mentioned ancient Greece. Is there like, favorite is a weird term, but is there a favorite example of this that you think of in history?
I'm just really, because of this episode, I've been really fixated on the ways in which women, noble women, have kind of been separated from sex workers and working class women. And so there's a lot of like really rich examples there that I think, this is interesting to me because I think it matters to us now. Like the ways in which women have always been kind of divided and put into a category of like virtuous or not virtuous, or like worthy of respect or not worthy of respect. And then in order to delineate who is who, the patriarchy, those in power, have like given visual codes for those people. And we still like embody some of those things today. Our ideas of modesty were manufactured by the church, were manufactured by government structures and men who didn't want to be tempted by women wearing certain things. So a lot of those things we have carried with us.
That gives me the ick.
And that's still super prevalent in world religions.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. And then how much of that goes into purity culture as well as kind of rape culture and what people are wearing and if that means they were, quote unquote asking for it or whatever.
Like it was your fault if you were wearing like that skirt, or maybe you should have worn something different.
Exactly. So that literally goes back to ancient Rome, ancient Greece, women wearing certain colors. I believe in ancient Greece, if you had a cloak with purple borders, you were a courtesan. So it was also used to justify mistreatment of women. Oh, I thought she had a cloak on with purple. I thought she was a sex worker. I thought she was a prostitute, whatever. And then also women who are suspected or accused of selling sex might have to wear something as like punishment for being accused, even if they didn't do it. Like all it took was a man saying you tried to sell him sex, and you might have to like wear a striped cloak or hold some kind of rod or have like some kind of badge on you. And then that justified further mistreatment, might allow for sexual assault or, any kind of harassment from men too without reproach.
And I think that's an interesting point, because a lot of times the way government gets higher class women on board with these laws is they claim it's protecting them. Right?
Exactly.
And then it's like, well, now I have grounds to just say, well, she was doing this and it's my word against hers and I'm the man in this situation. And we see that right now with like attacks on trans people. And there's conservative cis women that are like, this is, trans people aren't allowed in my bathroom. It's protecting me. And then cis women are getting kicked out of bathrooms and they're like, oh, that wasn't about me. And we don't have to keep this part in if we don't want, but
it's relevant.
I think it's fair.
It's another example of that. And they're selling it as something that's protecting women. And it was never about protecting women.
Yeah.
That's why I worry too about coming back into a time where there are strict sumptuary laws or dress codes, is because it's going to be a way to further like delineate cis women from trans women, men from women in general, like to further enforce that such a strict binary could be through how we dress. Like we might come back to a time where like women can't wear pants or something. That's an extreme, obviously, but like gender expression is so much of how, people in power, those who are transphobic, are like deciding who is who and who's deserving of what access. So I could see that being something we might have to deal with in the future, which is why it matters to talk about it now.
Yeah, true. That's a good point. All right. Should we get into some feminist fashion history?
Let's do it.
Let's do it. Obviously, there are fashion staples when you think of certain eras of fashion. So we just wanted to know, like, kind of your takes on the most key moments in feminist fashion. We can like dive into like the history between corsets and bloomers in the 1800s first.
Yeah, absolutely. Mm-hmm. Yeah, when it comes to corseting, I think there is kind of a sentiment. The first thing that comes to my mind is in Pirates of the Caribbean, Keira Knightley is like tight-laced into a corset, and then she's like standing up like a couple stories above the water, and then like during the I think it's like the trial or whatever, she faints off into the water. And I feel like that's like how the media portrays wearing corsets always. It's always this like painful thing that is kind of exasperating for women and really damaging. And a lot of like corset experts and historians would like hotly debate that and would say that that's not true. And my opinion probably is in line with that as well. I think there's a lot of function behind a corset, and I would maybe go so far as to say it is like actually a feminist piece of clothing. Yeah, I think a lot of the narratives that say that corsets are unhealthy and that they're damaging, if you look at the history, if you kind of trace back the sources to that, a lot of the people who were against corsets, a lot of the medical professionals saying they were bad, were men. Meanwhile, women are the ones making corsets. They're the ones wearing them. For the most part, men do wear them, but they're usually called trusses or belts or something that sounds more masculine. But women are the ones making them and wearing them. And it's just hard for me to imagine women wearing something for hundreds of years if it was actually that damaging or uncomfortable the entire time. I think that it can be something that we kind of change our perspective on and look at from a more feminist lens, because it did serve a legitimate function. First and foremost, dresses were big and heavy back then. So corsets allowed for kind of structure and just distribution of weight to make that dress more comfortable. Like it did serve a legitimate purpose. And then I think the other aspect of this is there is a difference between tight lacing a corset and just wearing one as support. If you were to just wear one, it wouldn't feel all that different than a bra. It might feel more supportive, honestly, especially if you're in a heavy dress that was common for the period. But tight lacing a corset would be that kind of to get that really cinched waist. You might be waist training even and trying to like shrink your waist. And that's not something a lot of people were doing. And there actually is ways to do that safely. The body is malleable. The human body is malleable, but most people were just wearing them for support the same way we wear bras today. But they had a lot more clothes on, so they needed more structured support. Yeah.
I love wearing a corset.
This is a really cool point. I have a corset and I love it.
Yeah.
But I've only worn it with like heavier dresses at weddings, just like instinctually. Like I wouldn't just like pick it up and wear it. So that's interesting. And I have a friend who has one who actually like has low back pain and she loves wearing her corset 'cause she doesn't have back pain when she wears it. And I'm like, that's kind of cool. You're just getting like a little support. And I'm not saying that's as a physical therapist, you know, there's other ways, of course. But if that's like giving you relief in that moment, it clearly says like this can be about something other than, you know, patriarchal fashion or making men want me by cinching my waist. You know, it can be about something else too.
Yeah, definitely. And I do think we will probably have the same conversation about all kinds of undergarments. There is an aspect of conforming your body to the styles of the time, to the male gaze, to look a certain way. That definitely comes into play. And it's important to kind of take the nuance of that, of women like them, they were supportive, they helped in a lot of ways, but also there was a strict societal expectation that your body conformed to a certain look, especially at that time. And that's, you know, something that we've moved away from in some ways, but honestly not a lot. Continues to be an issue.
Yeah.
I feel like the content that I get on TikTok is like dressing for yourself or dressing for the female gaze versus dressing for the male gaze. I get that all the time. I like it. I like that shift, that mindset. I feel like that's helped me with my confidence, like dressing for how I want to dress, even if it's like a little bit more masculine rather than feminine and traditional, I guess.
Absolutely.
I want a well-tailored suit now.
Yes.
After the Met Gala.
You would look badass in that, dude.
You would.
Oh, I want it.
Honestly,
Yeah.
everyone should have a well-tailored suit.
Right?
Everyone should like get something made to measure for them.
I want like a nice panel suit.
I love that. I could
For
see
when
it
we
having like
tour.
a really classy pinstripe or something too. I love that. Another point that I've heard brought up and I would agree with is that honestly, we still like, I mean, you both said you have corsets. They still exist. A lot of people I think that corsets ended in the 20s when dresses became looser, when kind of the silhouette became more like boyish, like the garçon look is what it was called. But honestly, corsetry just changes. The shape changes and the point of compression changes, but we continue to have shapewear even today. When we look back at corsetry, taking it through the lens of we are still doing things to shape our bodies in different ways, whether that is good or bad for the male gaze or not, is up to us to decide. But women, femmes throughout history have done that, and we still are. And so, yeah, I think just an important point when we try to kind of push back against that corsets are bad narrative is we're still doing it.
Also, one more ad. Do you know House of CB?
Yeah.
A lot of their dresses are corseted.
Yeah.
And the reason I like their dresses so much is because they feel expensive. Like
Yeah.
they are expensive, but when you pick one up, you can feel that it's like a quality item.
It's like heavy
and it's going to
yeah.
last. And I love that heaviness. And I think like the corseting is part of that too.
Yeah.
So that's interesting. They're all over. It's very modern.
Skims is corsets practically nowadays.
Essentially, yeah.
Yeah.
Modern,
Yeah.
Modern shapewear
for real.
for like the clothes that we wear nowadays, which is like a lot of like athleisure.
Yeah, it's really just that the materials have changed. We don't need to use whalebone anymore because we shouldn't use whalebone. Like
I didn't even know that's what we did.
Yeah, most corsets initially were whalebone.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's crazy. Why?
And then they switched once they killed off a lot of whales.
They were like, oh no, the whales are, what's the word? Extinct? Not extinct yet.
Endangered.
They were like, oh no, the whales are endangered now. Let's move on to another species.
And it was just, I guess, harder to acquire, understandably so. But the material is flexible but sturdy, kind of like plastic is now, but they didn't have plastic then. So it was a way to get that kind of flexibility of movement with also like the structure still.
I want to know the first person that was like, I know, we should kill the whales.
It was probably a beached whale. And they were like, let me try this.
Let's use the resources from this giant creature.
That's so true.
Right?
Yeah, I thought they were out hunting.
Yeah. Well, I mean, who knows? I wasn't there.
That's true, but I liked that point. That was good. That was good.
All right.
So we've moved on from whalebone to polyester, plastic, rubber.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I struggle with that though. And like because I feel really fun and like flirty and girly in like a corseted dress. But I'm like, is that because I actually like it or because I've been told that I should like it and feel feminine when I wear it?
I want to start exploring with the different styles.
Yeah. I've always had this struggle because I've always like dressed very feminine, and I'm like, how much of it is
Conditioned.
conditioned? I mean, there's so much conditioning.
Like I actually like I liked the dress I wore to the wedding I went to this weekend, but like I didn't feel like sexy. Like I feel like I feel like sexiest when I'm wearing like something like very like what I wore to your birthday party. Like that was like my favorite outfit, and it was like a suit jacket, like bra, like long black skirt, and like cute heels. Like it was still like feminine, but it wasn't like, I don't know. I'm not like a sundress girly.
Yeah.
Kinda.
It was still
I'm growing out of the sundress phase, I think.
Men love a sundress, don't they? Men love
don't know what a sundress is.
No, they
Hannah.
really don't know what a sundress is.
You go on TikTok and they're like, I love a woman in a sundress. And then they're looking at a girl in a bodycon dress. I'm like, you don't know what a sundress is.
No, they'll call everything in the summer a sundress.
And they don't even know that it's called a sundress because it's breathable, because we want to freaking breathe in the summer. And they don't care about the function of the sundress. They just want you in a tight little dress.
You'll never see me in a sundress. I will look insane in a sundress.
I did wear a really cute House of CB sundress with white sneakers and grease, and I stand by it. It was good.
I feel like I remember that.
But that was my only one.
Maybe I should try it. I don't know. I just like could never. I don't know. I can't see myself leaning that way. I feel like my style changed the most in 2020. Do you think that happened a lot with people?
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe because I was like chronically online in 2020 and like the whole world was shut down that I started like exploring more. I don't know.
I've always been really susceptible to what other people dress me in. So like in my last long-term relationship, my ex was really into like streetwear fashion, and he would pick things out for me, and I was just like, this is cool. I like it.
I like matching my partner.
It's fun.
Like when we went to the rehearsal dinner, and I like showed him my dress before. I was like, I need you to find something to match this. And we showed up and people were like, oh my God, you guys look so good. I'm like, yeah, that's my man right there. Mm-hmm. See, we matched.
It's really fun with a girl too. It's like me and Megan will like Mary Kate and Ashley match. And
Oh, I love
that's so fun.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm jealous of that. I want that vibe.
It's fun. It's a good
I
vibe.
love Mary Kate and Ashley matching.
We do that a lot.
We do that. We do that for sure. That's what we'll do for our shoot.
Absolutely.
Oh, yeah. Okay, channeling Mary Kate and Ashley. Noted.
Yes.
When do you feel like, what was your favorite era of fashion for you?
Oh, okay. I feel like personally, I love the 30s and the 40s.
Okay.
Because it was a time like women are in the workplace more because it's World War II and like most of the male population is off fighting. I personally like to dress kind of balancing the masculine and feminine, and I feel like the 40s did that really well. Like they would have just like the finely tailored elements of like a broad shoulder and kind of drawing on the military aspect that was so prevalent at the time. So things would have like military details on them, but still be like feminine and cut. But, you know, I don't know. I just like the balance of masculine and feminine in 40s style. And I like the silhouettes a lot. I feel like I gravitate toward, that's a time when there's like a little bit of a drop waist or like a peplum or something like that. And I like those styles on myself. And then 30s has like the super slinky, like silk bias cut dresses that are like figure hugging, but in the best way, like feel very effortless. And that's like my favorite kind of dress to wear.
This is how you know you're a pro, because like you always hear people reference like the 20s and the 50s. I never hear anyone say 30s and 40s.
It's so hot.
So hot.
Hey, what era of clothes do you think that I fit best?
Oh,
Me too. Me too.
oh my gosh, this is such a fun question. This wasn't in the notes, guys.
I'm going off the board. What do you think?
I get like very 90s grungy vibes.
That's like what I was thinking.
Yeah, because I feel like the outfits I've seen you wear out, and the one like just now talking about that blazer with the slip skirt feels very like mix of 90s minimalism with some grungy elements.
Like I love wearing a thick cross necklace. It's like my favorite thing to wear.
And I feel like you gravitate toward like a darker makeup. And all that feels
like the wedding I went to like this weekend. I wore like very like more like, I don't know how to describe the makeup. It was like very pageantry makeup, and I felt like no, I mean, it was beautiful. Like the makeup artist did great, but like, I was like, even Austin looked at me and he was like, who are you? And not in like a bad way. Like when a straight man's like, oh, you look good without makeup. You don't even need makeup. He was just like, this isn't how you do your makeup. Like what? I do like darker, like edgier, like smokier makeup for sure.
Yeah, you give what's her face from Cruel Intentions.
Sarah Michelle Gellar?
Which is my favorite movie, by the way.
Sarah Michelle Gellar. Are you
highest
saying
couple.
Sarah Michelle Gellar right
Yes.
now? You know that she's Buffy the Vampire Slayer, right?
Oh, yeah. I knew you would freak out, too. Wait, we
Ooh,
both,
honestly, you channel Buffy, I think. It's
we
my favorite show.
both are obsessed with the same person from a different
Show.
show movie.
We should watch
wild.
Cruel Intentions.
I do every
Well,
year.
I need to watch it
never
again.
seen
Oh, wow. You need to watch it.
We should have a watch party.
I love like
I'm down.
after I finished Buffy the Vampire Slayer for like the third time, I like just looked up everything Sarah Michelle Gellar was in and like watched everything she'd ever performed in.
Incredible.
So that's how I found Cruel Intentions.
Obsessed with that.
Yeah. I don't know. Weird fixation. Anyways, do Amanda now.
Oh, yeah, me.
Oh. I feel you like a tailored look.
I do, I think. I'm all over the board.
You kind of are. Yeah, I see I feel like I'm going to say this and you're going to be like, what? But like I see 80s, but not in like a gaudy, like over the top 80s way. In the like kind of more structured, tailored kind of like subtle 80s sort of vibe, if that makes sense.
Okay.
Oh, I like
Mixed
that.
with some like 90s minimalism as well.
Sweet.
Yeah.
What's 80s again?
Because I feel like I'm going to say 80s and people are going to be like spandex and like shoulder pads and like gaudy, but I don't mean that 80s. I mean like adjacent 80s and more like day-to-day 80s of like a nice tailored suit with like good lines and yeah.
Cool. I love it. I'm into it. I don't know enough about the 80s to hate on that.
Yeah.
What is like Y2K? What is the description of like Y2K fashion? What is to 2000s fashion?
I would say so I like to think of it in like historical context. So
yeah,
Y2K
like how did we get there?
Y2K is people get scared of the new millennia and like there's narratives that the world might end or like that technology is going to take over. And so I feel like you see that kind of shift in fashion also of like new millennia, new technological influences, birth of the internet kind of vibes of like people are trying like weird and out there things. It's also like we're seeing kind of another sexual revolution. So like people like women are showing their midriffs more and like wearing tinier things and lower waisted things. And then I think also there is kind of like before the recession, there is like a little bit of an economic boom. So you see that in like the over the top, I don't know, everything's bejeweled and bright colors and that sort
Juicy
of a thing.
couture.
Exactly. Like there's a specific like niche 2000 style called McBling. And I feel like that kind of encapsulates it to me, like very consumerist, but also very rhinestone.
Like Ed Hardy.
Exactly.
Which is coming back.
Everything's branded. Like I love early 2000s movies because every early 2000s movie has like brand Easter eggs everywhere. And I feel like that's also just relevant of the era. Everything's got the logo on it. Abercrombie and Fitch, Juicy
Hollister.
Couture. Yeah, like
I remember in high school, like looking at people's like butts. Like, you know
End
what I
of
mean?
sentence.
Like their jeans. And like you had like the American Eagle logo on the jeans and Miss Me jeans. And then you had the Abercrombie jeans and they all had like the certain logo. Do you guys remember that?
Yeah,
Like the
it was all
Hollister
about, like,
and the infinity sign on the Abercrombie jeans.
advertising what brand it was that you were wearing. Like,
And
and
it worked
everyone
on
had
me.
like the graphic tees that just had like the brand on it in like some kind of cool graphic or like embroidered in the chest corner. Like the little moose was a big thing.
Yeah, dude. And they like have
Photos.
completely shifted away from that.
Yeah.
Like I love Abercrombie now. Like they shifted with the time so well.
They're almost like what American Apparel used to be. And like when I was in college, they're just like basics now so that they can't be recognizable. Because otherwise people would be like, Abercrombie, that's so kitschy now.
Yeah. What do you think about fashion today?
I think we keep the cycle of trends continues to quicken in pace to a point where we're like reaching a point where trends and style is going to be kind of nothing because you have like early adapters coming onto a trend quickly, but that trend cycle is like if it were a circle, like early adapters are here, but then the people who are so behind on trends are like almost the same as the early adapters because things are going so quickly that it's like people are still wearing stuff from 2010 who just liked wearing that stuff in 2010. And then you have like Gen Z, Gen Alpha being like, oh, like indie sleaze from the 2010s is so cool. I'm going to start dressing that way. And it's like, there are still elder millennials who never stop dressing that way. And so I think there's going to be kind of this like muddling of, are you on top of trends or are you so far behind on trends that it's just like already come back into style? So yeah, I think the faster that kind of cycle quickens, the more it's just not even going to matter. And that's why I feel like finding personal style is so important because you're not going to be able to keep up. It's already impossible to keep up without over consuming and wasting a bunch. So you might as well just wear what you like wearing.
That's really cool. I see that a lot on TikTok with like older millennials that are like, I knew I never should have given into the high-waisted jeans because the low waist is back and like, or the skinny jean is back. And yeah, it's interesting how quickly that's happening.
Yeah. And it's always kind of been a pendulum where like super high-waisted is in and now everyone's like swinging back this way. And we're ultimately just going to keep going back and forth. So it's not really worth trying to keep up. If you have something you like, just continue to wear it.
Yeah, that's so true. I definitely like, I have like a pair of like high-waisted like bootcut jeans that I really like just because I feel so hot in them. But then I also have like some baggy like low-rise jeans that I just wear because I feel hot in them. Like not necessarily from like what's going on right now.
This is cool. I needed to hear that as someone who fears being perceived.
Do you feel like a lot of women now are starting to get into more of that personal style, or I guess you see it depends, but
it definitely depends. I feel hopeful because I feel like there are a lot more narratives on social media about how to find personal style and about like finding what feels good for you personally. But I think that also that is just because that's the algorithm like world that I exist in. So there definitely is still a large percentage of people who are following the trends and also feel entitled to be able to follow the trends, which I feel like is how you get people, buying from fast fashion places and being like, but I need this, like I should be able to buy this. And that perspective bothers me. So yeah, I don't know. I feel hopeful. I feel like there's more conversations about personal style. I worry that it's mostly because that's like the world I exist in. But
yeah, I got to be honest. I haven't seen a ton of that.
Okay, then that confirms it. It is just me.
I love that. I'm absolutely taking that away from this episode. And Hannah and I talk a lot about how fast fashion just like depresses us. And
it's exhausting.
It's exhausting
to try and keep up with. And I genuinely feel sorry for people who are stuck in that cycle because
of getting sheen
and then throwing it away or having something come that is going to fall apart after you wear it once. And it's just like a constant searching for something that isn't going to come. It's like pushing the boulder up the hill.
It's overwhelming.
Yeah. And then it just comes, I feel like the more you have a sense of self and who you are and what you like, the less that is enticing to you. And so I'm also just like, there are so many people looking to the internet and to media and to fashion companies to tell them who they are instead of like finding that within as well, which I think is, why fashion and expression is so important.
What would you say to someone trying to find their own style? What would you say step one is?
I feel like what really helped me was remembering the things I gravitated toward when I was a little kid. And when I like didn't care or like think as much about what other people thought about me. Like I find myself being like, I was such a tomboy growing up. Like I shopped in the boys section, and now like that I'm older, but I still liked wearing a dress occasionally. And now that I'm like older and kind of trying to find my personal style, I find myself going back to like, I love mixing masculine and feminine together. I love baggy jeans with a little pointed kitten toe heel. And I was also like kind of like a pop punk emo girly for a long time. And I find myself like re-gravitating toward edgy things, like not in a costumey way, but just in a like I like an all black silhouette. Like you're saying, I like feeling a little grungy and a little edgy. I feel very sexy that way. So I don't know. For me, it's been about like tuning into the things I liked before I cared about what people thought. And that's helped me. And even if I didn't wear it as a kid, but just like the styles I like idolized, that helped me. And two, I think it's also just about like not necessarily even focusing on the fashion, but just focusing on who you are as yourself and how you want to exist in the world and how you want to be perceived, and maybe finding some key words for that. And it doesn't even have to necessarily be about fashion. Just, yeah, I think the people whose style I like the best are also people who are just like very confident and secure in themselves. And I think that that's kind of step one in figuring out personal style. I'm sorry, that's not like an easy, like 4 quick steps to get personal style.
Yeah.
No, that's cool.
I really think
like
it's something you like acquire over time, which is like not as catchy or clickbaity, but I think it's real. That's why like people, you know, like idolize the like grandpa core or like coastal grandma. It's like, yeah, they've
cottagecore.
Yeah, they've spent their whole lives deciding who they are and what kind of clothes they like and acquiring like a collection over decades. And I don't know, I think that that's the fun part of existing as a human and growing older.
That's cool.
I think I did this a while ago, but I can't. Let me see if I can find it in my notes. Hold on.
Sidebar, my childhood style is giving JoJo Siwa like bad.
Oh no.
Like
I know that doesn't help everybody.
I was like mixed matched colors, like things that just didn't go together. My mom like still to this day would comment on it. And she'd be like, you dressed so crazy as a kid. It was so fun to like watch you get ready for school because you wore like this bright green polo shirt and then these like pink checkered shorts.
Right.
Just like random shit that would go together. It was fun.
Yeah. I wonder if it's maybe not like the literal what did you wear then, but more like how did you feel, or like what silhouettes did you find yourself? Like, yeah, maybe you don't need the bright green and the checkers now, but
which is the opposite of how I dress.
Right. Yeah.
I'm like so neutral. I try to add color. I add pops of color now intentionally, but I'm a very neutrals person.
I feel like you're really going to like this because I just found it. I did this when I got really deep into, I was trying to figure out like my style. And I think I found like some kind of like influencer, not influencer, but like a fashion influencer, not really even like a popular one, just like I was like scrolling on TikTok one day. So they gave tips on like how to find your style. So they said, first, you're going to find your energetic crushes. So people that you have like a crush on, which like one of mine was like Miley Cyrus, Doja Cat, like Rihanna, like people like Jenna Ortega was on mine. Buffy the Vampire Slayer was also on mine.
That
like,
checks out.
It's Zoe Kravitz was on mine, like energetic crushes. And then you find like style crushes, like people that you like are attracted to because of how they dress. So like I had like even like Rachel Green, like I liked her aesthetic and stuff like that. And I like wrote those down. And then maybe some like fashion influencers I followed. And then from like looking at their closets, you think you have just like a list, like a long list of words that come to your head just by looking at them. And then you choose like from those words, choose like 4 words to define like your aesthetic. So mine eventually was like sexy, vintage, rebellious, and intentional.
Ooh, yeah.
I love those.
And then we did the same thing for my friend Laura, which I still have hers in here somehow. And her energetic crushes were like Drew Barrymore, Paris Hilton, Sarah Michelle Gellar again, Tati Westbrook randomly. Style crushes were Rachel Green, Cher from Clueless, Prue from Charmed. And her words were tailored, eclectic, romantic, and timeless. And then the idea was like you use those words when you're shopping to like find your style. Isn't that cool?
I like that. That would be useful.
Totally forgot that I did that.
I like the mixture of not just like style crushes, but the energy too, because I think we can be attracted to that. That is almost more telling to me because we can like look at people's style and love it, but have it not be something that's going to like feel good on ourselves. So I feel like the energy mix of that is important.
And it's like going back to what you said about like you're attracted to people that are confident in how they look.
Right.
So
are you an astrology person?
Yeah.
Do you ever hear that you should dress for your Venus sign?
Ooh, I feel like I have, but I don't know a lot about it.
I heard that and I was like watching TikToks about it, but that's like if you dress for your Venus, then like you attract everything you want in life, apparently. So I'm like, okay, my Venus is Pisces, which is like kind of the opposite of how I dress. It's kind of like how I dressed when I was a kid.
Yeah.
It's like frilly, colorful, just like whimsical. It's very like whimsical.
Yeah.
Which like I pull out for certain occasions, but it's not necessarily how I dress every day.
my Venus is in Taurus, and that's supposed to be like you're supposed to dress like very like earthy, like Lana Del Rey, like floral, like goddess like, and like their Taurus is like likes textures and like cozy. and it's like not anything of like anything I wear. Like I never wear like flowers and like stuff like that. I don't know.
Maybe we should dress for our Venus signs when we manifest next.
Should just try it to see
guess
how
so.
life works. Do like 7 days dressing as my Venus.
True. Ooh, that's fun.
Mine is the same as my sun sign. My Venus is also in Virgo. I feel like I dress kind of Virgo-y.
Okay. What do you think that means?
I'm like, again, imagining it would be like more structured, like a little bit more minimalist, a little bit more neutral. Those are the words coming to my mind, which I feel like are words that like kind of define my style.
I like all these different ways to approach it too, because it's ultimately all just self-reflection.
Yeah.
It's like you figuring it out, however which way you get there. And sometimes you just bring in a pro like Hannah, and she helps you style your freaking closet, because that's what I needed.
Sometimes you just need to be asked the right questions.
Yeah.
Like, you know the answers.
Can we get into lingerie a little bit?
Sure.
And where that lands, and I don't even know where to start. If you just want to start,
Boudoir shoots.
How did we get to boudoir shoots? I think, so lingerie kind of isn't really a thing. In general, yeah, lingerie isn't really a thing until we start to see kind of the removal of corsetry from everyday fashion, which again doesn't fully go away, but does shift in a big way. So before that, you have on your corset, and there's like layers and layers of things that if you're a noble person, if you are wealthy, you probably have people helping you get dressed, and there's like layers of chemises and like, you know, gauzy kind of cotton things that you're wearing under your garments, because you're not washing your outer layers very often, if at all. But the like cotton linen undergarments that are like long shirts are protecting against sweat and smell, and like that's what gets washed more regularly, but it's not really sexy. It's very functional. And so it's not until we kind of like start to peel back layers of dress that we start to see like the idea of lingerie and of underwear as we know it today. And that starts with kind of the invention of the bra in the 20s and 30s, as initially just kind of this like lighter way to cover up under the like 20s and 30s style fashion, which is much more looser and slinkier and doesn't need kind of the structure of a corset, but still needs some kind of coverage and like modesty. And then eventually that becomes something that people want, like that women want to feel good in also. Initially it's functional in the same way a corset was. It's just like covering up what needs to be covered. And then we start to see kind of a little bit in the 20s, but more so later on. And especially once clothing becomes mass produced more in like the 60s, that's when we start to see kind of lingerie and underwear as we know it today, with sort of standardized sizing. And then eventually the sexual revolution of the 60s and 70s, and like is when you start to kind of see it be 70s like party disco kind of culture brings a lot of undergarments out, and like that's when we start to see like hemlines have risen, skin showing is much more acceptable, and so that's when like lingerie and that sort of thing becomes sexy, and women want to like feel empowered and sexy through what they wear.
this is fascinating.
That was like a very short, like condensed version of it, but that's kind of like how we got here.
I didn't even know when the bra was invented. This is
Yeah.
like so fascinating.
20s and 30s ish. It's interesting because it's not, with a lot of things, it's like this person invented it and patented it. But with the bra, like a lot of people kind of invent a similar thing all at the same time in different parts of the country and of like Western culture in general. So there's not like one person we can attribute the bra to. There's a lot of people kind of creating a similar like two triangles with some like ribbons or straps all around the same time.
In a lot of like protests against lingerie, that's the way I'll word it, that I've seen, people will talk about how like Victoria's Secret was founded by a man, and that's like the main argument I've seen. Like, what's your take on lingerie? Like, do you love it? Do you hate it? Are you somewhere in the middle?
I think with everything, like similar to when we were talking about corsets, my brain is just always like, do I like this because I actually like feel good and sexy in it? Or have I just been told that I'm supposed to feel good and sexy in it? And I think it's probably a mixture, because you do just like put that on and feel great about yourself if it's the right kind of piece. But then you have, you know, society telling you that women are supposed to look a certain way or that our bodies are supposed to be a certain way. But I think lingerie can be what you need it to be, more so than I have like a black or white take on it. I think if you feel good and empowered in it, I love the quote. I feel like I've seen this on social media a lot. I don't know where it came from, but just like, if men all of a sudden like didn't exist, women would like largely dress the way that we do now. Maybe even just like if one change happened, maybe we'd be like wear even more revealing clothes, or like dress even sexier than we do now because we felt safer. So I think there is like an intrinsic way that we feel good in that. And I think that's important.
That's a really good point. My nips would be out all the time,
Right.
like fully out, not just like peeping out. Like you would be able to see my tits all the time.
Yeah. Like if you were in a space where you felt totally safe, which is why I love Sluts Party in Chicago.
Love
Shout out
Sluts
Sluts Party. Is such a safe space as much as it can be for that kind of dressing and for that kind of self-expression. And people are dressing super slutty. Like you don't need the male gaze to do that. So I think that is telling of how revealing our bodies in ways that feel good for us can be empowering.
I am known among all my friends of that I never ever wear a bra. So if you're one of my friends listening to this, you know.
I only wear a bra if it's going to be the only thing you're seeing.
I love it.
I literally only wear a bra like if it's the shirt.
Yeah.
For real. I bought the nipple bra from Skims.
What is the
Did you
nipple
see
bra?
that?
No.
It's a bra with built-in nipples.
Oh.
So that it looks like you have like super hard fake tits.
Oh, that's
all
interesting.
the time.
I have not seen that.
Yeah.
It's a vibe.
It's kind of a
Have you
vibe.
worn it?
Yeah.
What
I'll
do
wear
you-
it under like a white, if I don't want like my like areola to show, but I want like my nipples out, I'll wear it under like a white tank top or something.
What's your experience wearing it? Do you feel like people...
When I am like walking down the street, I am very aware of like men. But like once I ever get to like my like place I'm going like with my friends, I'm just like, ah, and I feel good.
Okay, cool. I like that.
But like when I'm like walking down the street, I'm like, I'll like hold my phone here, like in front of my chest.
or
and
like
then,
jacket over. Yeah.
Yeah, just because men are freaks
Yeah, absolutely.
in a bad way, not in a pelvic freak way.
Not the good pelvic freak way.
Exactly.
I think that's interesting though, because that like to me that brings to mind how like in the same way like bodies have been like different body types have trended throughout history, like also like boob shapes and sizes have changed throughout history, and like what is the quote unquote ideal boob has changed throughout history. My favorite is that I'll give two favorites. In medieval times, boobs, the best kind of boobs were likened to apples as being like firm and very circular. And then in like the early 1900s, like beginning of 20th century, the monobosom was trendy. So it was trendy to have like one giant bosom with your boobs like super squished together.
Oh, the big cleavage.
It's so interesting.
Like, yeah, like it was not even cleavage because like necklines were pretty high. It was more just about looking like it was kind of just like uniboob.
Interesting.
Yeah.
That is interesting. It's fascinating.
And then like the infamous like 50s like what's it
Pointed.
called? Yeah, super pointy.
It is. I mean, this is something I've talked about before. Like, I've always had a smaller chest and a fat ass.
Me too, girl.
When I was growing up, that was not the style. Like the early 2000s, like the low-rise jean, like small butts and like pin-up girl boobs were like very much in, which is wild because why would a body be in? But it is.
Yeah.
And then it was like in college, I noticed the shift to like my body type being preferred by people. And it was just such a fascinating thing. And I'm like, this is weird. And why do we do this? All bodies are cool.
Because they want women to be obsessed about trying to meet standards. And then just when you've met them, they're going to pull the rug out from under you so that you continue to obsess over it and buy things. And
Yeah, they want to make you
Facts.
feel bad about yourself so that you'll buy things to try to make yourself feel good, but then you'll never feel good because you'll never obtain a body that's not actually yours.
Yeah. And we do drive the economy. So
yeah.
look out for that, ladies. Yeah, this is fascinating. How can we tie this into pelvic health though? Because we were talking about lingerie, right? Like Hannah and I work with patients all the time that have confidence issues or maybe aren't in a relationship where communication is where they want it to be. And all of this relates to mental health and ultimately pelvic health with whatever symptom they're experiencing. So sometimes patients will come in and they're like, oh, like, I'm going to try spicing things up and I'm going to try a little like lingerie for my partner. And in that case, you can see why there's a benefit to having these different options for them because maybe even a simple garment can open communication for them that can help with their confidence and their symptoms. So it really is all about what you feel good in at the end of the day and what fosters your confidence in
Absolutely.
your relationship. So it's just so fascinating that it's all kind of tied in.
Yeah, whether it's lingerie or tits out.
Just show up in the nude, the naked, pull a naked man on them.
Or like a big t-shirt or something.
I think for me, what's comforting is when I look back at the history of dress, of societal perceptions around women's bodies, around sex in general, like it is all so manufactured and so intentionally carved out the way that it is. But to me, that's like encouraging because we made it that way. And so we can also like unmake it that way. It's not like an innate human thing to feel the way we feel about a lot of things. Like we've been conditioned this way, so we can also work to condition ourselves out of it. And so I wonder if that kind of ties into some of the things you're saying about patience and confidence. It's like, no, someone very intentionally has like given you this perspective, but that also then means that you have the power to like unhave that perspective and dismantle it.
Totally. And I mean, the more time we spend with patients, it is really about empowering them to take back whatever it feels like to them that they lost or
Exactly.
that they're missing. So yeah, absolutely. Very cool.
What a cool tie-in.
What a cool time.
That's so true, though.
We're all just pelvic freaks at the end of the day.
You said that right. What do you think about the thong? Where did that come from?
Oh, that's a good question.
Yeah. Do you wear
Actually,
thongs mainly?
I love wearing thongs.
It's the only underwear I wear.
Yeah.
Unless it's like a boy short, maybe. Sometimes I wear either boxers or a thong.
Right. I'll like
picked
sleep
my nose
in
while I
something.
said that.
Boxers or a thong.
Oh, man. But yeah, what do you think?
I wish I knew about the history of where the thong comes from. I don't have that answer off the top of my head. I would imagine it has to do with silhouettes becoming tighter to the body and like our weird desire to hide the fact that we have clothes on under our clothes and like not wanting to show panty lines. But yeah, I don't know. Beyond that, I'll have to do some more research.
Fascinating.
Those are questions I love though. Like, where does the thong come from? How did we get there?
It's like, where did this actually makes no sense to me. Like, why is this my only underwear I own? It's like up my butt crack. Men, like straight men, like don't freaking get it.
No.
It's the only thing I like wearing.
Yeah.
Well, here's the thing. If I'm not wearing a thong, whatever I'm wearing is going to become a thong.
Exactly. It's going to end up there.
Right. I'm actually I'm a non-underwear person.
Yeah.
Unless I'm wearing like a jean or a structured pant. But if I'm wearing like a legging, I'm not wearing underwear.
Oh, for sure.
Never.
Sometimes if I'm wearing like a long dress, I'm like, fuck it.
Oh, almost never in a short dress.
Yeah.
I don't wear underwear in dresses.
Yeah.
Unless you're really going to see my cooter.
Yeah.
Unless it's coots out.
Unless it's coots out instead of toots out. Tits out.
No promises in Puerto Rico, though.
Oh, true.
I feel like breathe in there. You know?
Yeah.
Get the sun down there, honestly.
Honestly.
Oh my gosh, you need some sun.
I do.
It's been too long. All right. Sex toys. I didn't like how I said that.
Sex toys.
Sex toys.
We're going to talk about, all right, Hannah, we want to talk about sex toys.
Of course you do. I want to talk about sex toys.
I
Who
love
doesn't
sex
want to
toys.
talk about sex toys?
Yeah, so what does this have to do with fashion? Fill us in.
For me, fashion just overlaps with everything. So I could talk about anything via fashion. I think specifically creative expression, gender expression, sexual identity, and like that kind of expression all overlap. For me, like the initial kind of entry point into this was through like second wave feminism, sexual revolution of the 60s and 70s, which is kind of like a big part of that is women trying to kind of own their own sexuality, not always in the right ways. But yeah, that was kind of my initial draw into like sex toy history. And then from there, I was just fascinated by it because I love all kinds of history. So I think there's some really interesting.
I thought you were going to say, I love all kinds of sex toys.
I mean, also, they're pretty good.
Yeah, I think initially that was kind of my entry point. So that's where I saw the most overlap was kind of like the fashions of second wave feminism mixed with sort of sexual identity and women trying to reclaim bodily autonomy. But They've always overlapped because fashion overlaps with everything because we are mostly always wearing clothes.
Talk to me about a hand crank vibrator. I just saw that in these notes and I need to know more.
That's one of my favorite fun facts. So this is like late 1800s, before we have the electric like plug-in vibrator. They're starting to kind of come up with ways to get that like percussive nature. And so you could like hand crank it and then it would like vibrate for a certain amount of time and then you'd have to hand crank it again. Wow. But it didn't really take off because it is so much work. Like it's you know, it's probably better and easier to just use your hand at that point than like cranking over and over again. But I guess there was like a resurgence of them as like an eco-friendly vibrator in like the early 2000s that again kind of never took off because why would you want that?
That seems harder than anything else I would do. That is fascinating.
That's what men need to be used for. Hand cranking my vibrator.
Yeah, maybe if there's just a man next to me cranking it.
That's your job.
Or like running on like a hamster wheel for me.
A woman definitely created this.
Men are for hand crank vibrators and taking out the trash.
That's it.
Wow.
Honey, will you hand crank my vibrator for me?
Yeah. I mean, what else can you say about that? This is fascinating. Cool. And then I like your note here that like the myth of vibrators treating hysteria was something that was
we haven't even talked about hysteria on this podcast.
We haven't talked about hysteria on this podcast, which is wild. Well, didn't we talk about hysterectomies at some point? And
I think we did actually.
Them coming from hysteria.
Pelvic Freaks, you tell us. Are we missing something?
We do forget what we talk about sometimes. So that's a fact. Anyway.
Yeah, can you talk a little bit about how vibrators were used to treat hysteria?
Well, the short answer is they probably weren't.
Well, it's kind of, that was a really weird statement from me. I guess how I should phrase that is how did men back in the day think that they could treat this with vibrators, treat hysteria, which is also a made-up concept.
It is. Hysteria was kind of a catch-all for a lot of things. It could have just been like a general malaise. It could have been like depression or anxiety or any number of things. It could have just been that you were like unhappy with the man that you married and he would say that you had hysteria. So it's just kind of a catch-all term in general. But there actually isn't any proof that vibrators were used to treat it. There's kind of this narrative, and I think there's like even a couple movies where this happens.
Interesting. I've never even heard this before.
The idea was that if you got diagnosed with hysteria, if your like husband said you had it or some kind of man in your life, then doctors would treat you by like stimulating you to orgasm, and that would cure your hysteria temporarily, but you would have to keep coming back. I don't know where that idea originated, but it's kind of one of those urban legends where if you follow the trail of sources back far enough, there's not ever a primary source that comes from. We don't actually have any journals or books or newspapers or any kind of primary sources that can confirm that ever happened.
Wow.
Whoa.
It's also, dare I say, one of the nicer ways they've tried to treat hysteria.
Right.
I was going to say, I think I would be like, damn, that really did heal me.
I'd be like, at least I'm getting a gasm out of it. I don't know.
Definitely want that over like leeches or something else. You know?
Leeches throw me in a mental hospital. That's
right.
like, there's literally a women's mental hospital in Lincoln Park that men would just be like, my wife is crazy. She has to go here now. And they would throw them in hysteria.
Yeah, bro, give me an orgasm.
I'll take the vibrator.
Yeah, don't you kind of wish there was some truth to that?
Yeah.
Maybe not, but
maybe that's why someone started it, to give us a nicer history.
Yeah. It's not real. No. Shout out to historian Hallie Lieberman in her book Buzz, where she is like one of the, I think maybe the first person to kind of debunk that myth. So want to give credit there.
Cool. Book shout out. Maybe we'll put it in the notes. Will be linked in the episode notes.
Yeah, like that's too good to be true. Come on. Anyway. So now I'm seeing your note about the 1900s and as like a beauty remedy.
Yeah. So before sex toys were illegal in the US, starting in the late 1800s, up until in some states pretty modern. And then now we're back to maybe them being illegal again. So one of the things that vibrators were initially sold as was kind of this like catch-all beauty remedy, anything from like preventing wrinkles or like treating nausea or curing deafness. Like this is a time where medical practice is like all over the place and kind of dangerous. So they were like, well, it can't hurt just to like hit you with a vibrator for a little bit, and not like necessarily just in the genital region, but they would like do it on their backs or wherever wrinkles were and that kind of a thing. So it was one of those like, it can't hurt and maybe it's also helping kind of a thing. So they would just prescribe vibrators for everyone. Even they thought it would help babies with indigestion, which it kind of does. It's, you know, like similar to patting a kid on the back to get them to burp. And at this time, it's not vibrators as the way we know it. It's more of that like percussive, like repeated tapping. And the first ones look kind of like an old like style egg beater with like the handle and the two little whisks. And it has a bunch of different attachments that you can put on it, and like a pretty big loud motor. But we do know that women used these for arousal also, but it wasn't branded as that. And really like most vibrators weren't branded that way up until fairly recently in the last, you know, not until maybe the 70s, more popular in the 80s and 90s, do we see them kind of actually being advertised for what they were. Get a lot of like neck massagers and things like that.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. What you're describing sounds more like a Theragun.
Exactly.
God forbid a woman experience pleasure and we let people know about it.
She's just trying to cure her deafness. That's it.
Hey, don't worry about me. I'm just trying to hear better. Oh, God, people be crazy.
Wild.
I also want to talk about one of the reasons we have sex toys look and feel the way they do today is because of a disabled man of color named Gosnell Duncan. He was apparently a ladies' man this is like sexual revolution time. So like 60s, 70s, 1960s and 70s. Apparently kind of a ladies' man, an incredible dancer. I believe he was also from Chicago. So this is like cool local history as well. He gets paralyzed from the waist down and is really frustrated with the fact that there are kind of no solutions for how to have a healthy sex life as a disabled person. And so he starts creating his own dildos. And he also he's the first person to trademark and make silicone dildos. At this time, they're still like mostly made of rubber, and they can't stand high heat. And so it's kind of hard to clean them. And so there's like a lot of sanitary issues. And so he is a disabled person, sees the disabled community and goes, we need an easier way to clean these, especially for disabled folks, but also just in general. And so he makes silicone dildos for the first time. And because he's a man of color, he sees dildos mostly being made in like peachy white skin tones. And that is frustrating for him too. And so he starts making them in all kinds of skin tones and all kinds of colors. So he's doing a lot for the sex toy world. And then he also partners with the feminist movement at the time. And there's this movement during the sexual revolution to decenter, amongst women, to like decenter men and decenter like penetration as the way to sex, the only way to have sex. And so he also is the first one to kind of make dildos not as like penis-like in terms of how they look. So like most dildos are very like veiny and have like the little bulb on the end and stuff like that. And the feminist movement is like, can you just make like a plain object without all of those kind of details? Like we don't need it to look like male genitalia. And he listens and he does that too. So
this is freaking awesome. Snaps for this guy.
Shout out Gosnell Duncan. I feel like he's just one of those unsung heroes. Like no one thinks about how we got to how sex toys are now.
No,
at least
I don't think I ever thought about it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and unsurprising. It wasn't some like white dude.
No.
Able-bodied white cis man. Wasn't going to be him.
Oh, another fun fact that I love is like a lot of early dildos had plungers in them, like kind of like a syringe to like emulate ejaculation, which like you know that was made by a man because like women don't want that part.
That's not the hot part.
Gosh.
This is so interesting. You're so
my
knowledgeable.
This is really freaking cool. I love this episode. I say this every time we have a guest, but it's like my new favorite episode for real.
It makes me want to learn more.
I was just about to say, like, if I had money to like go take classes in something right now, I think it would be fashion history.
I feel that way in general about most, like I love to learn. I love to learn. I love to learn new things. If I could just be in school all the time, I would be, because I just, yeah. So curious. And fashion.
That's kind of why you guys, it's like Pep Club Vintage. You guys have like classes and stuff on fashion history.
Yeah, we wanted it to be kind of a community feel. And yeah, I like the vintage community is so knowledgeable, and different sellers have different expertises. And I wanted to be able to kind of bring that school like feel in an accessible way that isn't paying for a workshop or a college class or something like that.
Yeah, I'll sign up for any classes that you take or you're teaching. I want to know more.
Follow Pep Club on Instagram and you can see all the classes.
Who's this Betty Dodson? Did we talk about her?
No.
Okay.
She's a fun figure. So like I said, there's kind of this push during the second wave feminism to decenter male genitalia, especially like amongst the lesbian community, because there are all these narratives about lesbian sex not being real sex or not being as satisfying as like penetrative sex. So there's this push to...
Did you look at me?
There's no, like, people actually thought that.
Yeah, I'm just going to debunk that one.
Yeah.
Wow.
But they're pushing back on those narratives. And one of the ways they kind of maybe debatably overcorrect is just by like kind of saying no to dildos especially, but sex toys in general. And so Betty Dodson kind of comes into the picture, and she's married but can't reach orgasm with her husband. And so she like buys like a Hitachi wand, or like one of those like neck massaging wands before it's branded that, but and like finds a way to pleasure herself to reach orgasm, and then kind of has this like, no one's talking about this. Women don't know how to experience pleasure for themselves, or like what might give them pleasure. And so she starts hosting these masturbation workshops where she has women like walk into a space and immediately strip naked, and like she like gives them all mirrors and tells them how to like appreciate their vulvas, and then leads them through masturbation with different vibrators. And like supposedly a lot of women experienced orgasm for the first time in these workshops. Once you kind of get past the initial shame or like embarrassment, it became this really incredible space to kind of explore yourself in a supportive environment, which sounds awesome.
Yeah.
She was kind of a trailblazer in that way, but also there were like a lot of feminists at the time who really like looked down on what she was doing and said it wasn't an important part of the feminist movement. But yeah, looking back on it, that's cool work that we still need today, and I feel like is also part of what y'all do.
I was going to say,
is similar, yeah.
It kind of ties in because like pelvic floor therapy started as women's health because it was an underserved population that no one was treating.
Still is.
Still is definitely underserved, but now we at least have like the resources for us to even bill insurance. The fact that we have codes now that we can bill, like that was less than 30 years ago, probably. Like, and a lot of them still don't get reimbursed. Like a lot of them still aren't recognized. Like we were just talking today about how we can't bill pain with sex or lack of satisfaction with sex as a code. So we have to like skirt around these things and find ways to bill them. Like Betty Dodson, that's freaking cool. Like that's not something that would happen today because now there's like online resources on how to achieve orgasm or whatever. But at that time, what she was doing was revolutionary. Like no one was probably doing that around her. And it was very need-based for her life. It's just really cool to like hear history like that coming out.
Yeah, and it was so revolutionary that even other people in the revolutionary space didn't see the importance of it, which now we can look back on and be like, that is so important. Like women reclaiming pleasure and their own autonomy is a huge part of how we can then like go to navigate the world. But
wait, speaking of that, would you be down to come back on the podcast to talk about the Janes?
I would love that.
That would be awesome.
It would be my honor.
I want to talk about the Janes more.
What do you guys think? What do you freaks think? We want to have a Janes podcast
They don't
episode?
even know what the Janes are.
They might.
Well, if you know what the Janes are, you're probably like, hell yeah.
Don't
if
worry.
you don't, we will tell you all about the
Don't
Janes.
worry. It's coming. Okay. That's going to be our next episode.
Fun little teaser.
The
And then we can
Janes.
get into anything else that we didn't talk about today because we had so many good things.
It's also like because we're like all friends.
all,
It's
like,
like
sitting
so
like
we like love talking to you in general, and then we're just like, oh my god, and she like knows all this cool shit that we don't know, and we just like want to pick your brain forever.
Yeah. I feel like every like subject we've touched on could be at least its own episode or like its own series. So
We could
yeah,
have stopped at the Met.
literally.
That could have been an hour.
Exactly.
It's wild.
Yeah. It's hard like condensing all of this because I'm like, oh, there's so much detail and nuance. But yeah, be great to come back and we can yap more.
Yeah, this was an amazing overview. So thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me. Thanks for
For-
asking questions and letting me nerd out about it.
Absolutely. For people listening that are like, hell yeah, I want her to do my style bundle or take her classes or visit her store or whatever, how can people find you?
You can come shop at Pep Club Vintage. Our Instagram is just Pep Club Vintage. We're on Chicago and Ashland intersection. If you live in the city, we have some stuff online, but not a lot. If you want to follow me specifically, my Instagram is at @thatgogogirl. I do a lot of like talks at Pep Club about fashion history and why that's important. We've had a lot of guest speakers come in and talk about different aspects of the vintage fashion scene, about different parts of fashion history. So definitely follow us on Instagram and you can come to those workshops if that's interesting to you as well. If you want a style bundle, reach out to me via Instagram and we can start talking about that. And I'll send you a fun little questionnaire, a little quiz to take.
Hannah, before we dismiss this episode, we're going to hit you with some rapid fire questions. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Okay, Amanda's done improv, so be ready. Amanda.
I have not done improv. Maybe I'm not ready.
I'm thinking of these on the spot for real.
Okay.
Amanda, go.
What is your least favorite article of clothing that people wear?
Oh my, I'm not good at the rapid fire.
You can do it.
Flip-flops.
Hard agree.
That's a good one.
That's a really good one.
Flip-flops.
Why do they? Because what? Why?
For those of you listening, she said flip-flops.
Okay, and then opposite. What's your favorite?
My favorite. I love a nicely tailored suit.
Sticking with the suit.
Stunning. Are you a gold or silver metallic?
I'm a gold person, but I also support mixing metals.
I do that.
I got into mixing metals recently.
Justice for mixing metals.
I forced Amanda to mix metals.
Animal print, yes or no?
Personally, not for myself, but yes, on other people.
Excellent.
Would you like it on me?
Yes.
Love that.
I love it on me. But I don't have a lot. I have the shoes you got me.
The shoes.
Those are
Animal print is a neutral. You can wear it with anything.
So good. So good. What's your favorite plant?
We're losing her. We're losing her.
That's good.
Once you start throwing out plans, I think I got to cut you off.
What was it last time? Feline animal? All right. We're also going to link Hannah's info in our show notes, so make sure you check there and give us a rating if you enjoyed this episode on whatever platform you are listening on. And make sure you're following us on social media at Pelvic POV.
And check out pelvicpov.co. Check out our website. Check out our merch. If you're into fashion, you can buy our merch.
We do have merch.
Support the Pelvic Freaks.
Woo!
I need a pelvic freak merch of some kind.
We got you.
Yeah.
We just ordered so much merch, actually. We'll hit you up.
We did. We're waiting for it to get in.
Oh, have you seen
love
their
a pop
totes?
of red.
Never mind. We can talk about this later.
Hannah, would you like to do the honors of saying goodbye to the Pelvic Freaks?
Goodbye, pelvic freaks.
Bye, Pelvic Freaks.